This is just a live video of the weigh-in. This is not the true shootout between these reels. Basically the spools, throwing a trout magnet, and we're going to throw a couple other baits. I wanted to get this in and out of the way. I can do it live, hopefully quick enough. You know me and my quick videos. But then I'm going to have to use the GoPro and edit all the footage to do the actual weigh-in to keep it in a certain amount of time. But in case you guys that don't know the spool weights, want to see them all weighed together, a lot of guys, you haven't seen these reels and stuff compared. And what's funny is the biggest thing I noticed right off the bat, once you bring all these things out and pull the spool bearings off, first of all, I did not pull the spool bearing. My tool is not capable enough to get down in there and get that little guy out. But what I noticed is, and it's just out of the frame there, the Black Knight 2, I guess I should try to adjust that a little bit. The Black Knight 2, when you hear people talk about, it's got the micro spool bearings, but it's not as micro as the Shimano. You guys can see down in there. But that Shimano stock bearing is a smaller bearing. Not by a ton, but it is definitely smaller and lighter. In every way, it's skinnier, not as big around. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I never really paid attention to them, even though I've owned the reel now for a week or two. I did notice that, and then this is kind of a weigh-in and my overall thoughts on everything and what my predictions are and which one's going to win, which one's going to do what. But we're also not only going to throw the trout magnet while I'm out there doing all this stuff, and I'm going to have 2-pound line on. We're going to see which ones the line gets in and which ones it don't, because I'm sure I'll be backlashing trying to throw this little nightmare of a bait. If you haven't seen the video, go check out the Black Knight 2 on the Cast King Zephyr rod. I manage on my little test field out front. It's basically my driveway. I know, we're high tech around here. Deal with it. But anyway, I got up 50 feet. Now, I didn't get it for long. It was rain. It was nasty weather. I'm going to try to get out and do this footage today, and then I'll have to edit it. I don't know when I'm going to get it out. But we made 50 foot. So we know that one I should be able to repeat it on a decent day. And a lot of these reels probably won't stand up. But then we're also going to see, because if you guys are familiar, and one of the main reasons why you don't see the newest Daiwa's Alpha's Air out here is because it's for me anyway, it's kind of a one-hit wonder. It'll throw that little trout magnet, the lightest wet bait, better than anything on the market, and we've all heard that. And the new Geico pigeon that they got out, Daiwa does, is I guess as capable or even more capable than it. But then if you guys look back, I did a casting shootout with, actually it wasn't this bait we're going to use, but I did a casting shootout with one of these nasty looking baits over here. Just basically a crappie jig with a 16th ounce crappie jig with the skirt, which weighs like roughly 2 grams is what they were weighing. And guess what? My PW100 can outcast that Alpha's, the one I had. I'm not saying everybody's, but the Shimano and then this guy right here, I could actually get better distance than I could with the Alpha's Air TW. A $300 reel and a at the time, $65 reels I think these were selling for. And then as I went up, like the Alpha's it starts struggling more and more. It's got that tiny little spool. So we're going to kind of see if the Black Knight 2 is like that in this shootout. That's why I'm jumping. I'm not even doing the 2 grams because I'm doing and you'll see we're going to weigh in on the weigh-in here. We got 1 gram, should be 1 gram, 1.5 grams, and then this should be like a bigger bait. That, I believe, is a true 1/8 ounce. Then I got the skirt on that. And the reason I'm throwing this, because this is what I basically, unless I'm going to the small creeks and streams, that's the lightest. Where's he? Oh, I got my hands full. Hang on. I do throw these. That's the smallest, lightest weight thing I throw. A little bitty crank. It don't look like it now. Creeks and streams. But when I'm out crappie fishing, I've been finding that instead of a little 16th ounce crappie jig, which we used back in my spinning reel days and my, closed face like Zebco 33 quantum stuff, that a little heavier weight, because all of these reels are way higher speeds than your normal spinning reels, and especially the small little closed face Zebco 33s. So to reel slow, to where that crappie likes to bait, and the average, like basically if you're cranking the reel to the same speed on a spinning or other, this gets down to a certain depth, 1/16 ounce. But the heavier one, when you're going faster, will still get down to that depth. So anyway, that's just what I was finding out, and that's what I throw. So we're going to basically see if these that can throw the trout magnet get blown away in distance once you get up to what I consider your average size, kind of like this guy here, which I throw too. Average size, true BFS stuff you guys are out there throwing. I know a lot of you guys, everybody's wanting to see, what will throw a 1 gram trout magnet, and they want to go out and fish with 1 pound test and all that kind of stuff, which that's fine, but that ain't me. I just replaced my BFS, my spinning gear over the years I've replaced with bait casting gear. But here is a little sucker right there. Now I started throwing with an 1/8 ounce because I was in deeper water here lately. But this little worm, and it'll stretch from one end of the screen to the next and beyond. It's like, it's like a toy story. But that little bait there is like a nightmare to throw with regular casting gear on a 1/16 ounce jig head, but definitely weighs more than that. So we're going to see, possibly even the link, but which ones, if they get beat out by these other ones. And so before I show you some of these other spools and whatever, I'll just tell you that you don't see an Alpha's Air TW. I mentioned a little bit earlier why I ended up getting rid of that one, but it definitely will. We know that when I was throwing that crappie jig, throwing lighter baits, it's more like easier to throw, and it was throwing this. I mean, you guys have seen several people that have thrown a 1 gram trout magnet with it. Whoa, focus. So it probably gets a few feet further than the Shimano. And the other big manufacturer that I'd call Abu Garcia. You don't see Abu Garcia in here. I've had my little run with Abu Garcias, and I no longer own any. But the ALC BF7 was the best casting reel in all the shootouts I've ever done throwing that guy. 2 grams. It could not be beat by any reel that I've ever owned. ALC BF7. Now, I don't think I ever tried throwing anything real light with the ALC, because when I had the Alphas, I'd already like switched out and went away from it. So that is the only reel, the ALC BF7. Of course, the LTX BF8, same spool. Very good reel, but and I guess some of you guys have the same opinion. The Abu Garcia, and it's basically any of them that have this same, but the Abu Garcia seemed even more so than like the fish band reels. They're kind of finicky. Like I felt I couldn't just set it and forget it with the ALC or the BF8. The BF8 especially, and I don't know why. It's weird, but the cheaper reel, the ALC, which is the only main difference was magnesium aluminum. The LTX, magnesium frame, lighter weight. The ALC was aluminum frame, had a drag clicker. But that reel and that spool seemed to just function a little better for whatever reason, but it was still one of those where you couldn't just set it and forget it. That's why I still own this, and that's why this is still my favorite overall best BFS reel. I can set it and throw stuff like that. And I can also go throw the shaky head worm. I can throw a 1/4 ounce crankbait, and I never have to touch that dial. Thank goodness, because that little dial is a nightmare. So is this one. I might talk about that in a minute. But so far, and I'll tell you my first impressions out on the water, I've been fishing the lingle and the Black Knight 2, along with the clamber. All 3 of these reels, I would say, are the term I use, set it and forget it, because I haven't had any issues. I've been throwing some of lightweight stuff, especially with this guy. I've had more testing than with the others. This one, I kind of just started throwing bigger stuff because it's got a 0.5 gram heavier spool than it's supposed to. So this spool is actually not quite up to par with what they advertise, but you'll see that, and we're going to weigh it. And I know my videos are supposed to be short, but we're already 10 minutes in. I haven't even weighed anything. But I like that reel. You've seen the reel test did a shootout. He kind of did a little casting before the shootout between Alpha's Air, and he shows that beat out the Alpha's Air with the 1 gram trout magnet. But he was struggling with he was using jerk baits and stuff, but he seemed to struggle with the brakes. Now they are right up towards the end. So is the Zephyr. You got to dial them like all the way and come back about 4 clicks is about the loosest you can let them brakes out before it will start to the spool gets a little too loose and it'll start having, not really backlashes, but the line it'll start what I call fluffing up. So anyway, that's what I'm hoping to do with the video that's coming after this video. But before we do that, I know my videos, guess what? Get used to it. That's the way they are. Or I don't know, go watch Obi-Wan Kenobi fishing in a stream. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And Jimmy from Raw Fishing, of course, I've mentioned the reel test, but those guys are all channels I actually watch. So I kind of see what they're doing. If they get something before me, well, I can't have that. I got to go get it too. But anyway, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I think I'm older than all those guys. So I've probably been fishing this kind of stuff longer than all of them. So I wanted to take a little trip back before we do this weigh-in to show you guys where BFS, in my mind, originated from. For me, anyway. I started out, like I said, Zebco 33s. My first probably, I don't know how many bait casting reels I've owned, but my first few were nightmares. Older Shimano's, Daiwas, whatever, they did not cast that good. I mean, you had to have a casting thumb. If you didn't know how to thumb the spool right, guess what? You were backlashing. We had these crazy deep spools, as deep or deeper than this spool, just filled full of 15, 17-pound line. You know, us bass fishermen here in the USA back in the day, we had to have 17-pound line. We had to have 150 yards of it because that 2-pound bass was going to pull us 5 feet. But anyway, now this is out of, and that's the reason I bring this spool up. My favorite reel to date, my son has the last one I've owned. I've owned 2 or 3 of them. The TD Ito was probably, Daiwa. And over the years, you guys can look, there's several kind of finessey reels that started popping up. I want to say Daiwa made a Procaster. I think that's the name. I may be wrong. But there was this cool turquoise plastic reel that had I want to say gold. It may not have been a gold spool, but it was a shallow spool, and it was more of for like target casting. So it came with the shallower spool. And so there's been around what's ended up evolving into BFS. But my favorite reel of all, and I don't know why I still own this spool, was the TD. And that thing works for throwing like a wide range. Like it just had a wide, crazy range, and it was tuned by, I'm horrible with saying names, but Yuki Ito, whatever. I don't know how you say his name, but Megabass, the guy that owns Megabass that does all the creations now. He was just at the time kind of working with Daiwa on the reel side of it. Created that reel, which is still easily the most well-known. Once you see it, people know what it is. And that spool had a lot going on. If you look, the inductor is kind of shaved down, it tapers, gets skinnier as it comes out. It doesn't really come out, I don't feel, that far, but it had a lot going on. So I guess we're just going to start weighing some of the older spools so you guys can see what is going on. The bearings on the fish bands, of course, are the same, but they're different than the lingle and the casking. Well, I'm just thinking of, I spotted that bearing. The lingle and the casking, I believe, are exact same size of bearings. So anyway, just to show you what we were dealing with back in the day on kind of finessey. Now, this wasn't true. This was kind of getting in there. But yeah, 14.6 grams. But then, there was a little reel, and I don't have a whole one because I destroyed this one. And this is the spool out of it. But, you had your Shimano had their Aldebarans, and of course Daiwa had their Alphas, and the Pixie is actually the one that was the true, what I guess I would call the true BFS reel in the bunch. But they were the same reel. The Alphas had the Alphas was aluminum, the Pixie was magnesium, and Pixie had a 1 or 2, I think it was just a 1 millimeter narrower spool. But this is the Alphas Type R. That's the one you just saw, the custom finesse. So we're going to weigh those real quick. Oh, before I weigh it, this inductor comes out. If that stays focused long enough. So the Type R had an inductor that came out, wasn't very thick. I think if you look, no, maybe they're the same thickness. Yeah, it was close to this one. And then you had, did I weigh that? I may weigh that. So then you have the finesse that's fixed. It did not move. It's more like a lot of people say that's what you would use for flipping and pitching. It just stays the exact same. So anyway, now these all do have bearings on them. Now that sucker's heavier than this one because you see that 15.1. Hopefully you guys can see that. Let me turn this where you guys can see it. 15.1. The original, the Ito we just checked was 14.6. So it's heavier. But then you had this guy, which that's when you started, you seeing, shallow spools, lightening them up some, but only 14.3. So nowadays, and I'm not even sure what this one weighs, here is a spool out of an MGL. So you got your MGLs and your SVs, which are basically just the older, in my mind, the older finesse spool technology. They just threw it in and they, make a fancy name for it. Oh, it's an MGL. It's a whatever spool. So yeah, 12.5. That's with all this on it still, which the Daiwa was all had us. So 12.5. Very finessey spool, very lightweight, got all the different stuff cut out. I mean, about as close as you can get to true BFS without calling it BFS, and it still has the braking stuff, and so, deeper, holds more line. So that's kind of where they came from, and it's just slowly evolved into, and a lot of stuff, wasn't really called BFS until, I'm not sure, I guess Shimano was the first reel that came out with the Aldebaran BFS, and attached the BFS to it. And I'm sure a lot of them nowadays maybe will or whatever, but, Alphas has the Air. They still haven't actually called any of their reels BFS. So we're going to see these and we're going to get the weights. And I'm just going to show you real quick that we're not going to include, whoa, look out. We're not including this big tank of a reel nowadays. That's the original Black Knight, because that spool is crazy heavy. And so it's, been definitely outdone and preceded. The Black Knight 2 is definitely way, just general, I feel is going to be for sure all around more fishable. Then if you have the any of the Spirit Foxes, the PW100 original one before they made it into that, is going to be, this guy's been preceded, because this spool will fit like they interchange. Also the XF50, if you still have that reel and you can track down one of these spools, you could put it in it and definitely be better off. That is one of the best all-around spools for the money. Back in the day, I bought that for $15, put it in my older PW100. I don't think you can even get them anymore separate. They do still sell the reels. You might be able to get them separate. So we got the new reels we're trying out, the Clamber, the Lingle, and the Black Knight 2. The old dog, my Aldebaran, 2016 Aldebaran BFS XG. Then another new, sort of new, but it came out last year. These two came out last year. These are new this year. The Cast King, which I don't think there was nothing. I don't think, oh, I did try. None of these spools that I have out here interchange. Like the Lingle and the Cast King, not even just due to the braking. Like something's different about the spools other than just the braking systems. Nothing interchanges. Already tried it. So the Lingle, if you haven't watched the real test, the first guy, I didn't even know or think about that would be a possibility, but evidently this Lingle spool, the heavy monsters, are still lighter than the GH100. So if you have a GH100, you could, and they're selling this spool. They're selling a lot of them, but this is the only one I've seen in stock. I think you can get a Black Knight 2 spool, but it don't fit anything else. So I don't know what you put in, unless it does fit something else I don't know about. But the Lingle spool will fit in the GH100, and you're dropping like a couple grams. So definitely be an improvement over the GH100 spool. All right, who wants to start seeing weights? Just so you guys know that my scale is working, and it's not a very accurate one. I may order a better one. I've had this one a couple years now. Yes, I know it came from AliExpress. Uh-oh, it's weighing different. Hang on. Let me get it. Unless this thing gained weight. Must be holiday season. Okay, there we go. 1 gram for the Trout magnet. This shows 1.5 still. It may have lost a little. No, that's right. It lost a 0.2. So I'm gonna I'll probably throw all these with the snap. Actually, no, for this one, I won't have a snap on any of these. So this is actually, I may have to add something, another ring or something. I'll get it to 1.5 before the shootout. So we're going to go from 1 to 1.5 because a lot of these I actually throw in 0.5 grams. You may not think it's a huge difference on a spool or a bait, but when you're dealing that low of weights, that 0.5 grams, it does change. So we got to get that to 0.2 up to 1.5. And a lot of stuff will throw this and not quite get to that level. So yeah, and then now 3.9. So pretty much 4 grams. And that's just so mainly the lower end ones, we can see if they can throw this real good, can they still throw this as far or further than the other ones, or do the other reels that can't throw those just, start pulling away from them? That's what I want to see. And some of you guys may also. So let's just jump to the weights before this scale shuts off. All right, let me start with, I'm just going to start with this guy. I haven't weighed this one, I don't think, without the bearing. I weighed it 6.3 grams. Is that what, I can't remember now. I know that there was some controversy with the real test. His didn't weigh as light as the Fishing Discoveries guys did. That weighs 6.2. Hang on, it's getting lighter. The scale's not 100% accurate. I got 6.2. Let's see if this still weighs 1 gram. All right, that still weighs 1. Now it says 6.3. No, it's so close. This isn't a real, it's only the 0.1. If it had the other, and I'll probably get one that gives you a further. So it's like right on the verge, 6.2 or 3. And I'll have to look. That's what it took me a day to realize that this spool weighed a lot heavier than it should have. So let's go to the Lingle spool. Yeah, see, I've got 6.7 on my Lingle. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be 0.5 lighter than that. I think these two are supposed to be very close, is what I'm thinking. 6.7, 6.3, almost 2. It's sometimes fluctuated, but 6.3. So yeah, I got a dud. But I've been using it. And if you guys are just now tuning and noticing or to the channel, this is 0.5 grams heavier than it's supposed to be, but I did get an adjustment from the, I'm tipping them up as I test them to weigh them just to make sure. I did get an adjustment. So this is supposed to be the lightest ever. Whoa, that comes with the reel. There's some that are lighter. Wait a minute, is that right? 5.6. I think it's supposed to be 5.5. There we go. Close enough for me. That is and just holding this and looking at it, it reminds me of how fragile the Alpha Zero TW spool kind of was and looked. You definitely don't want to like go whee, because it may actually crunch it. I'm sure it probably would. The original Black Knight, I bet I could put a squeeze on that and that wouldn't even fluctuate. That thing is crazy. Now this one has the little bearing. I'm not going to try to take it off just to give you guys an idea. It should be kind of heavier. I think that weighs about 0.5 gram. It's a very light bearing. It's small. So we're going to call it 7.2. 7.2, it's still the heaviest in the bunch. So let's go with the Cast King. 7.6, we got a new heavyweight. 7.6 without the bearing. That's why this one, it may not really be in contention. Now we have a very good spool, but for nowadays standards for BFS, oh no, it's still right there. You guys see that? Wait, is that right? Okay, let me weigh this one again. 6.2. 6.6. I thought these were supposed to be heavier. Did I get like a super crazy lightweight one? I'm gonna have to look at that. I thought that was supposed to be a heavier bearing, or a heavier spool. Because they went from, didn't they go from 9.3 to 8.3 when they changed? Well, here's the original one I took out of that. Now it still has a bearing. Yeah, 9.4. Let me check that. That's original PW100 that came with that reel, and it weighs 9.3 or 4. I think it's supposed to weigh 9.3. I think my scale is almost a point higher than it's supposed to read. So these are supposed to be 8.3, and I took the bearing off. I'm going to add the bearing on. Wow, that's a heavy bearing. Look at that bearing. 1.5 grams. So yeah, I guess I got a crazy super light. No wonder I've been loving this reel. Yeah, 8.2. So it's right. It's just that bearing weighs a lot. So yeah, it's supposed to be an 8.3. And my spools went weighing heavy. So I guess I lucked out on this one. 6.6. That's why this thing has been working so good. And like I said, you guys can check. I think I just released the video this year, but I did it last year. I was doing cast tests, and this thing was zinging baits. It was definitely amazing me, because at the time, you couldn't get that reel, you couldn't get that reel, and you couldn't get that reel. You could get this reel, the Alpha Zero TW, and of course the ALC BF7s and stuff, but that $65 reel was right there with them, and that's why I never even pulled that. That's the first time I've weighed that spool with the bearing off, and that is crazy lightweight. Even this one with the bearing off is not going to get, you're still talking, I don't know, 0.5 gram heavier. Definitely makes a difference. Now this one, yeah, see, it's close in weight, but it should be lighter. It's supposed to be lighter. So anyway, we got them weighed up. Those are nice. I traded Charles a purple spool for that thing. Now, if you guys got a cast, don't worry. They do cast good, but I'll tell you right now, this spool is not as capable for the smallest baits as the Cast King Zephyr rod. It's just not. It's 7.7 grams. Hopefully they either give you guys an upgrade, because I have 2 of these suckers now. I right and left-handed, and I'm probably going to sell them off to whoever wants to buy them. because they pull them a touch big and the spool's outdated. Look at that thing. Look at this tank. I'm calling it a tank. It's actually a light spool, but you've seen for what is out there though, because I've fished. Well, this is the exact spool that caught my personal best. That reel and this spool, 10-pound braid with a 10-pound leader, and drag about as tight as you can get without fear of breaking the 10-pound line. And I've been fishing it for a year. Not quite, I didn't do as much fishing this year as normal, but pretty thin spool. I don't know. You guys comment what you think about the whole braid. Don't use braid, use braid. In my mind, braid don't cinch down like near as bad as mono. For mono's like the stretchiest stuff ever. So say you're reeling in a bait that's got a lot of drag and pull on it. You reel it all the way in on your spool, and then your spool sets for 6 months. I'd rather have, and which my spools did set, and they always do, with the braid on them, and there's no deforming of the spools. With that, is a pretty thin guy. Now the alphas, I don't know, I didn't own that reel long enough. And we'll find out about this guy, because if you compared the two, I'm trying to see, I can't tell. My eyes, even with glasses on, can't tell how much thinner, if any, this spool is. This spool may not be any thinner than this material. It's just smaller. Which in my mind, if once you do get smaller, it should get stronger, right? Does that make sense? Maybe not. Like in diameter, it could be just me thinking that way. So I think, and I'm not going to try it, but I think, say if you had 10-pound mono, 10-pound fluoro, 10-pound braid, in my mind, the biggest chance of warping a spool is on the mono, then the fluoro because it stretches too, then the braid. Now, unless braid, I haven't really tested and I don't know. I've never even read a study on it. Is braid wet when it dries? Does it get smaller? I don't think so, but maybe it shrinks down. I don't know. That's the only thing I could think of is what they're saying is, if your braid's all wet and you spool it on tight, and then as it dries, maybe but I've never had that issue, and I've fished for, a while now. Now this one has definitely set for a long time with braid on it. And some of these, maybe not any of these. Some of my reels, BFS reels, I've put 15-pound on. No issues. Somebody, Dark Wolf Ultra. Yeah, Nicole Rivera asked me that. Are you getting the Dark Wolf Ultra? And that's what the new Dark Wolf, I don't know what I just did. Hello, Jay. Yeah, Jay says he prefers braid. And I'm telling you guys, out of all the reasons in the world to pick a line, I'm going to tell you exactly why. For bait caster, I prefer braid. Backlashing. I am the worst person out there. I consider myself good at casting, but I'll admit I'm the first one. I'll rear back and cast something way harder than you should, or whatever, or right into the wind when it's blowing 10 miles an hour, and have the craziest backlash. And with braid, it just comes out like the braid don't, like the whole thing don't just start unwinding. It just starts shooting line. But as that line jumps up, it doesn't have a memory. It doesn't have any, backbone. So it starts twirling around and doing stuff, and which inevitably makes it catch itself. So that it stops the backlash. Really, like a horrible backlash will get stopped usually before it becomes a horrible backlash, and let you get it out. And braid's so strong that it doesn't like hurt. It doesn't kink. It doesn't get jacked up. Like back when I tried fluorocarbon, I'm just not a fluorocarbon fishing person, because I would literally waste half the spool in just like every day. Every day I tried fluorocarbon. Sometime during that day, I would get a backlash enough that it would kink and it would knock out 40 or 50 foot of my line, or however much, or maybe a short one that only took out so much, but then they'd do it again. So, and I actually lost a few fish because I would get kinks in line, whether it be mono, braid, copolymer. I started there for a while. The P-Line Original I use now as my leader. I started using it, but it's still, as much as I like that line, when they get a certain kinked a certain way or something happens, and if you're not paying attention, you'll get a weak spot and you'll cast out, and you may hook a fish, or you may even just like hook a stick or something, and you go to pull, you got, say, 10-pound test, and so you go to pull, and it doesn't even pull about a couple pounds of pressure, and doink, your line breaks in half or something happens. And so I just, over the years, I'm like, give me braid, give me a leader, give me a couple simple knots. That's the thing about the FG knot. The FG knot, and the best person I've heard explain the FG knot as a reasoning why I wouldn't use it. He wasn't necessarily talking about the FG knot, but any knot that you can't just physically like look at it as you're tying it and realize it's like you've tied it right, as I don't like using them. And the FG knot is one of those where you really don't know that you didn't tie it right until it fails while you're out using it, which either means a big fish lost, a bait lost, or something like that. And it happened to me. And the first person I watched was Gene Jensen. He was talking about it, Fluke Master. He was tying it out on his boat. And then I started watching a couple saltwater videos, how to tie it. And now they've got an even simpler way. But I think if you use bigger line, I think you might be okay. I think when you're using, say, a 10-pound leader or less, for me anyway, plus I like to use the same roughly size braid as my leader. Like, say, if I'm using 15-pound leader, I actually like to use, say, a 20 or 30-pound braid, roughly the same size, or even 15. But like, then maybe it might kind of be okay. But when I was trying the lighter lines, it's like the braid won't cinch, and actually hold on. So it'll just fail. Plus, my thoughts are, like, if you're just using it for bigger stuff, like I think it came from saltwater, right? Bigger gear to where they're not casting and reeling back in. So I think the FG knot, and I know this is about a other thing than that, but I think what was happening to my FG knots is just the casting and reeling back in. I was coming through those guides, and the reason I started tying FG knots because I had micro guides, and I don't think the guides even matter, but my knot would kind of extra little click, coming in and out. And I started doing it originally with 15-pound tests because I had those freaking Ducket rods that had those crazy small guides, smaller than any guide ever needs to be made in this world, on bigger size rods, and you're going to be using, say, 15-pound test or whatever, especially even cold weather, like icing up. Micro guides are not good for regular fishing tackle where you're going to be using, say, 12, 14, 17, 15, 20-pound test. They're just not. The smaller guides, but not quite to that true micro, like the Duckets. That's why I got rid of those rods. Anyway, when you're coming in and out of the eye, like, even though it's the smoothest knot, any knot, when it's coming in and out of that eye after so long, you're going to need to redo it or retie it. But I think that what happens with the FG knot is it loosens. It just slowly loosens that knot up but before you realize, like anything with it, it comes off. So anyway, I went on a rant about the FG knot. You'll never see me use that knot because you can't just look at it and tell it's good. I use the one, I don't even know what it's called. I'll try to show you guys here with this piece of, I call it a double uni knot, but it's basically where you take two pieces of line and you cross the two pieces of line. Oh my God, I picked the worst material to use. You guys are learning all kinds of stuff. Now this is one line, but pretend it's two lines. So you cross the line, you got your mono on one end or your fluoro, and then you got your braid. And as you cross them, you cross the other one over like that, and then you just wrap it 5 times through that loop you created. I'm not going to do it, but then you cinch that down. Then you take the other two pieces of line, on this side, you take this tag in and you basically make that loop 5 or 6 times through it. and then you cinch them together. I call it a double uni knot. I may be calling it the wrong thing. That knot I can make out in wind and rain, nasty conditions, and when you cinch it up, it just, you can tell you got it. It's there. And I've never had that knot fail from being tied on. Now I have had that line break on, like, when you can think back and you're like, when did the last time I changed that leader? And it may have been like 2 months, or, you know, just way beyond what a normal knot is expected to last. And I've had it happen probably 2 times in the whole time I've been using braid the leader. So it's one of those things, just like a snap. I use a snap and I tie that with what I call I don't know, it's either the Berkeley or the trilene knot. Maybe it's called the trilene knot. And because I've heard somebody else call it a different name, and I'll try to show you that knot real quick. I don't have any good line though. I do not have any good line in front of me. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm going to show you the knot. I know you guys are going to see it. It's going to happen. I don't know when. We're going to have a casting shootout between these. And the main reason we're doing this, we're doing the reels. And the best reel, I'm going to give you predictions right before I start tying this knot. My predictions on this shootout is a Black Knight 2. Just because I've already cast it. I know I'm not I'm not psychic. I have already cast that with, the trout magnet with that, and I got 50 feet. I don't think that's going to make it. I think that's my next one. I would have this guy right there in the mix, but the spool is 0.5 grams heavier than it's supposed to be. I am going to order another one of these reels. I'm kind of waiting it out. I may wait for 11/11. There's a sale coming up on AliExpress, but I may wait until hopefully they get the bugs worked out on these guys, because I don't need any more reels to be able to go fishing. I think fishing's about done for the season anyway. I think yesterday was my last trip, and it was not that eventful. I caught a couple decent ones, but nothing great. But if they're coming in, like Jay's commented several times, and as I've seen, that's 0.5. There's some of them like they're just, the fluctuation that's in the spool weight are way off. So I may just wait and order 1 or 2 more of these when I think they've fixed that. This guy, they're not putting bearings like they're supposed to in the handle bearing, but it's got them everywhere else. And it's actually got spots where you can order bearings for the line guide. So that's the worm gear on each side of it. So that's actually good apart about that reel. I haven't torn into this one far enough to see if you can order all the bearings for that, but it's loaded with bearings so far from what I've seen. But I'm picking that guy, and I don't know about this guy. I honestly don't know about this one. We did a shootout. I can't remember. Man, I've done so many shootouts and fishing, whatever. But this one, and I believe the Cast King, I cleaned out the bearings because they were so. I felt resistance, especially on the Cast King. Like, I felt like it wouldn't even let a bait drop when you're trying to set the spool tension, because it had so much, the bearings were like just way the wrong kind of oil or grease or whatever. And I did this guy while I was doing that one, but it's not really a big deal because that guy has been fished so long, and this guy especially. I did just relube him. I put 1 drop each in the actual Shimano BFS lube. But this guy, I like the way the bearings are working on that one right now. I actually like it. Like, you can hear them, but when you cast hard. So like, you can tell when you make a soft cast, it's quiet. But then when you zing it, you can just hear them bearings just start to talk to you. And that's the way I like them to be oiled. This guy just always talks to you. That thing's always had like just a loud noise. And it's probably just because of what those bearings are. This one's always been like a real smooth, quiet, and that's the way this one is too still. This is a very smooth reel, the clamber. So let's tie this knot, and then I'm going to end this video. Now, this is definitely not braid I normally use, and this is not, you do not want to tie, I'll show you that knot real quick. If you're tying directly to, which I do not recommend, the easiest knot, and several people have talked about this is the knot if you're tying braid directly on. Double your line, go through whatever you're going through, and I won't go all into big detail, but basically you just tie a simple knot through that. Put your bait, which is, or snap, because I always use snaps. Put your snap through the loop on the 2 pieces of line that you came through. I know I'm horrible at making these knots, but then of showing how to make them. But then you just pull, cinch all that up, okay? You guys got that? Cinch all that down, get it wet. I find it's not as big a deal to get them wet with braid. Braid's just way tougher, guys, I'm telling you. So that, it won't slip with braid. But if you're using regular mono, so pretend this is mono, or this is fluoro or copolymer, which I like the copolymer. It's like it's a mix of everything. Who doesn't like that? Now, somebody showed this. I can't remember the name of it. And you just wrap it like this, and you wrap this around 6 times, and you go through that little hole you created. What I do, and it seems like it's added protection, and it's quick, simple. If I could show you guys how to do it, braid is not very good to tie on knots with, because it's so no memory, it didn't hold any, it has no backbone. So you go through twice. So you go through once and then go right back through the same spot. So you create a loop like that and hold it about there. Then you wrap 6 times. You can go 7 or 8. If I'm, and the only way I vary this, like tie on a snap on say 15 pound or anything bigger, I only go 6, because that is enough. Then I go through both. You basically created 2 loops now. After the first loop and then the wraps you did, there's another kind of a loop. So you make sure you go through both of them. Then you wet that good, and because you got a lot of cinching to do. And you kind of want to hold on to your bait. You pull this. As you pull this, it's hard to do with one hand, but then you kind of just pull it all. Or kind of hard to do with just one guy, 2 hands. And then you cinch it up. Oh boy, I already cinched that where I'm going to cut it off. Might as well cinch it up then. I'm not going to wet it because I'm not going to use it. But then I kind of like to, I'll put this part, in my mouth with my teeth, pull on it while I'm pulling on that, and you cinch that baby down. I call it the Berkeley or trilene knot. I like that knot with regular line. Don't do it with braid. Braid, I can't pull it to make it slip, but that you'll have that slip out when you least expect it if you try that knot with braid. Now, I have a knot tied here, and if you leave a long enough leader, you might make it today without it slipping, but no, don't do it. Don't do it. Let me get that out of the way. Let me read some comments, and I'll get out of this video, and I'm going to try to go. I hear the kids out playing basketball. I'm going to have to kick them out of the way, but it's only like 50, 55 degrees, but it did look nice. I looked at earlier. Let me read some of these comments. I'm out of here. Hi, I just started watching. Oh, I already read that, Jay. Sorry. Yeah, I read that too. My favorite line is, or my favorite line to line knot. Geez, I can't read. Double uni too. Okay, yeah. What's the advantage of narrow spool over the wider ones? I don't know. If you're talking about this, like this guy, I honestly don't think there's an advantage. I think they just try to do that to where you hold less line. Well, here's a simple fix. Just take your normal spool. Just put less line on it. It's that simple. Simple fix. If you want it's 34 millimeter spool, fill it halfway up, you got a 33 millimeter spool. Woo! Look at me. I mean, I don't know why they're doing this. My only thoughts were on this guy, and I could see it when I looked. I think I could see it. Oh boy, where was I looking? I was looking at something, and I thought you could kind of tell that, they set it to where it only goes so far on the, they have to kind of set this worm gear so it doesn't go over that far. But here's the thing, as I get ready to get out of here and put all this stuff back together. I think, I don't know, maybe not. I would almost think you could make a spool lighter by not worrying about narrowing it up. But that's what, I think the alphas, even the original Air TW, but the new, I I don't know. Is it called gecko pigeon? I call it geico pigeon. It's just easier to say. It's kind of like that, but it's kind of deeper too, though. They like made it, I don't know what they were doing. I'm guessing for braid is the only thing I can figure. Because the new saltwater one for the Daiwa, but it looks like it's definitely deeper. I can't remember how much the line, which one holds, but I can't get nothing to focus today. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure what their thoughts are. Yeah, Jay says always called it the trilene knot, that not a touch. Yeah, and that's what I think. Because I think whoever the trilene line, Berkeley trilene line is, they came up with that knot to tie with their line, and it just has been called that since. And I think that's all they did. They doubled it. They went through twice and tied it and went the trilene knot. Cool invention. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Stay tuned. If you got any, comment below. I try to answer everything I can, but I'm not saying I'm dumb. I can't answer everything. I'm saying the comments, I try to look at them all and answer what I see. So as I get out of here, I'll talk about just what I've kind of noticed on these reels in case you're wanting to jump on one. We got the 11/11 sale coming up on AliExpress if you want to get, I'm not associated with AliExpress. Want to get a reel, rod, or whatever. So I'm going to try to tell you guys what I would recommend. Doesn't mean go out and buy it, just what I'm going to get again or not on the reels and rods I've been picking up. I've been mainly getting rods, and that was the whole purpose of this one. I'm going to narrow it down to, hopefully I think it's going to be that one. Then I'm going to stick that reel on all the rods, throwing the 1 gram and probably a couple others, just so and I'll flex the rods and you guys will be able to see, just to give you guys a better idea of the cheaper rods. We're going to cheaper rods right now, right? You go to AliExpress, you don't go to AliExpress to buy $500 rods. They're on there. I've seen a couple of them, but you're looking for that, cheap, inexpensive, just to either get going in BFS, or you're like me or Charles. Well, like Charles, he's wanting something for maybe do a travel thing, or maybe just, one to take trout fishing, just different things. A lot of us, we don't own one, once we get into hobby or whatever, we don't own one of anything. The kids are destroying the outside. I got to go out there and get them lined up, and then I got to get everything set up. I got to get all these spools, bearings, pins put back in. Yeah, and then get set up and ready to go. And like I said, you won't be getting this today. Sorry. Well, possibly tonight if I'm really gung-ho, but I may not be that gung-ho. I have already lifted weights, so I got that part done this morning. But I definitely am going to try to get the video, be out there doing this test today. And I may comment, if you guys aren't on BFS Fishing on Facebook, I may kind of start talking about my results then. But the actual video for this reel spool shootout won't be until a later date. So yes, I actually have to give all of these, everything you see here, I have to give a thumbs up. The only one that I am definitely for sure 100% getting rid of is Casking. I know Casking, their reel test calls them mainstream now, which they are, and they're good reels. There's nothing wrong with that reel. The only thing wrong with this reel, it's not any of these reels. I like every one of these reels a little better than I do that guy. Now you put this guy, it palms a little big, but you put that guy on the Zephyr rod, and you definitely have a winner. I've stuck this guy, though. He just doesn't, first of all, the orange doesn't match up with any of my other rods. It palms a little big. It's got a heavier spool. And it is I can't recommend it because it is a 65, like for the money, $65, not this guy. This guy is like, he's too expensive. But I would honestly rather pay before I'd pay another 65, which I traded Charles out of this one. I did buy another one from Jay for, I can't say, I got a deal on it, but it wasn't $65. But before I spend $65 for another Cast King or, do over again, I would rather spend $120 even for this guy. But honestly, before I'd rather spend $120 for this guy, I have to admit, unless you want aluminum frame, it should outlast these other plastic frames. But I've had that talk too. The plastic, it's not what it used to be. It's graphite, it's carbon, it's mixed, it's blended. Kind of like this guy, like the Zion and the other stuff on the Daiwas. It's not the same. Almost all these reels are just built tougher than if any of you guys are used to having older plastic reels. They're not quite the same. But before I bought this guy, I'd rather buy this guy. 65. Now it's getting up there. It's still a little more. It's but you've seen how light that spool was. Like Charles is convinced. I offered that reel to Charles. I'm like, you want to buy that clamber for $100? No, I'm good. He's got 2 of these, and he's modding Black Maxes. You can get on AliExpress and buy a pretty lightweight. Well, you can buy a crazy lightweight spool for a Black Max that'll probably outcast most of these reels. But you got a Black Max, which there's nothing wrong with that. If you look back at my video, I did a shootout. I had the MG Extreme 2. That was one of the only reels. I bought it before it came out off of eBay. $500. Black Max, or not Black Max, Revo MG Extreme 2. Gave $500. Super lightweight, awesome reel. Should not have paid $500 for it. It works awesome, but I did a casting shootout video, just, regular size base, not these little BFS things. I think I threw a frog and something else with the comparing those two, like a $40 reel, a $500 reel. Guess what? The $500 reel beat the $40 reel by, you're talking, I can't remember the exact distances, but by a few feet on every cast. That Black Max will freaking cast a bait. I mean, it just will. I don't know. I've never owned mine long enough to wear them out because I buy a Black Max and then, if you follow the channel, Matt, who's my family, he buys it, or someone, there's always somebody like, how much 40 they buy? I'm like, they sell them at Walmart. Like, it's not like I've come up with some great, find. They're all over, but once they see me using it and how good they work, I'll buy it. So I sell them. So I'm out. I've owned 3 or 4, 5 different Black Maxes. I may actually buy one. You know what? I'm going to buy one. I'm going to get another Black Max. I think they got a newer version, but I'm going to do that also and try to do a mod thing like Charles is doing. I'm going to have to, Charles, if you're watching this, let me know what you're finding or whatever. But the Real Test did it too. He took that. Well, he took something that it's basically a Black Max spool. What the heck did he call that thing? The Revo X? And anyway, now the Bass Pro Shop's carrying that Roxanne frame, and one of the higher end Abus is based off the Roxanne frame. So I don't know, but I think I just want to get the Black Max. And the last one I had was, I don't know if it's Gen 3, I think like what Charles is using. It's all black and it's got a long, red handle. And then I've had the ones before that. I don't know if I've ever had the original Black Max, but I'm going to get a Black Max. We're going to get a Black Max. And we're going to mod it out. But today we're not going to do that. The best match for the Zephyr is so you're talking about the Zephyr reel, and that's what I've been hearing. That's another thing. You're not the first person that mentioned that. I've had a lot of people mentioning for years, like the Volkey, the Major Craft rods. The Volkey was the first one I've heard mentioned. I always kept looking at the Speed Style or the other fancier one, but they were like $200 or $300 reels. But I guess the Volkey and the Days and the other one I've been hearing about that you mentioned, the Binky, the Days are, I guess, affordable. They're like $100 rods, $150, something like that. 110. So yeah. And thank you for mentioning that. Frank has mentioned that he recommends a Major Craft, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, Binky Benkei or whatever ultralight rod. He's saying Digitaka has 2-piece available for 110 delivered. That's not bad. I probably should jump on there and buy one just to try it, because that's my next step up. As you guys are watching, you're going to watch this video at some point. You're going to see me test all these cheaper ultralight light rods. But then what I want to do is I want to do a step up from that, not only in price, but on the size. I want to go from either a true light that doesn't come, with the ultralight light tip, so kind of like what the 661 kind Teton is, to the medium light. Like some of them I'll probably even get from AliExpress. They have a light, medium light tip. Then there's just some medium light. There's some, decently priced, but they're probably like $60, $65. Yeah, and then Curtis has mentioned he still has the original Black Max. He's always liked that reel. Yeah, they're cheap. But there ain't nothing wrong with fishing with the Black Max. I can tell you that right now. They will get the job done. So I need to get a major craft, because many people on different forums or on YouTube channels and stuff talking about them. I definitely just need to get one to try, because I had the major craft. It was a 2-piece rod, Corza. It was like and I liked it. It looked good, but honestly, that rod did not impress me. It was a Major Craft Corza 6.5 or 6 medium, I think, and it had I think it had the imitation wood grain reel seat, or maybe it was real wood reel seat, and cork, and it looked good, and it just was a good rod that, as far as looks and feel, but I just wasn't impressed when I went out fishing with it. It almost I'll be honest, it almost had like a dead feel, even with braid. Like braid sensitive, but it didn't impress me. But I don't think that rod lineup is meant to. I think it's more of a, cheap and affordable but cool looks is what that was for. Yeah, the Paul's saying the FG not only work well when the leader's thicker than the braid. Yeah, and I think it has to be like a lot thicker. Like I think you have to have something big and stout, a thicker line with a skinnier braid that's going to bite kind of in better. And so, yeah, I don't know. The FG knot's not for me. It's just one of those knots, and there's a few of them out there. You tie them, and you just don't know for sure how well, did I get it right? Did I not? I know you can pull and sort of test, but you can't really pull and test them right way. Otherwise, you're actually weakening the line a little. So, man, I've sat here and talked forever on it. My videos are always too long. Oh, well, that's the way it goes. We did cover everything, right? You guys know what's going on? Okay. All right, I'm out of here. Look forward to this video, and then also the video with the, I don't even know what I'm going to call any of these videos, the rod video, but I got a bunch of rods. I got too many rods. We got a bunch of RC gear. Here, I'm going to show you real quick as I get out of here. Now, this isn't all of them. Well, sort of, but they're all stacked up. But right here, there's Noah's and mine's RC stuff. Then just look at how many rods that are just over on the wall. I'm not a collector. Like, the Reel Test has a huge collection, because he buys a new reel like weekly, I think. I buy a lot of stuff, but I get rid of a lot of stuff. You see me have fire sales. Once I'm tired of something, it's gone. I'm not a collector. And then I just realized what I didn't even talk about. I don't know if some of you guys have seen AliExpress. Yes, of course, AliExpress sells little stickers. And you can just type in like bass fishing stickers or whatever, and a whole bunch of them. And at one time, for whatever reason, I thought I wanted a bunch of these. So I bought like 10. They're like $3 for 50, or I don't know. I forget what they are. But I bought several hundred. Anyway, I got all these stickers. I just thought I'd let you guys know if you wanted to jump on AliExpress and order you some just stupid fishing stickers. Like some of them are weird. Other ones are actually kind of cool. Like that one, I'm not a kayak angler. Charles, that one's for you. If you're a kayak fisherman, that looks like a redfish, I think. There's a couple of them up here. Like if you're a Jaws fan, you can That one's kind of cool. And you can, what my plan was, I was going to get a whiteboard or black and then put stickers all over it and then like take cool pics with that. But that never panned out. But I thought this, there's a pic. I found a pic of my old personal best catfish I caught a few years back. I thought that one was cool for you guys that, you know, have medical conditions that force you to use the drug known as grass. And then this one, you guys know this one applies to me. Nah, them big old girls, they don't fear me. They just know my name. They know the sound of that trolling motor when they hear it coming. There you go. Somebody will want that one. Bass King. That is a janky looking bass. And then, of course, oh, that ain't the one. I had one for Charles that said something about Grandpa. Well, focus, you stupid sticker. Bass Man. That reminds me of somebody, but I can't think of who. I think it's that, oh, I know who it reminds me of, that goofball off Seinfeld. That's who that reminds me of. All right, guys, I am out. I got stuff to do. I'm just sitting here talking. That is cool, but what exact fish is that supposed to be? Is that like a snook? I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out. You guys know? Somebody will comment the name of it, and I'll be like, yeah, but I can't tell. That is definitely not a regular bass for sure. It's got the spikes. I think it looks made to look meaner, but don't snook look like, I don't know what that is. All right, I'm out. Peace out. Gotta go. Got spool pins to pop back in. Oh, can't leave yet. Now, I have the cheap ones, and that's why I didn't pull the one out of the Shimano. I kind of kinked back when the Alpha's Air TW, and that's why I sold it cheap to a guy, which I showed the damage. The line still would not get in the spool, but it like took a chunk out of the freaking spool. But I actually bought a couple of these off AliExpress, and somehow accidentally, I bought one and two came. I don't know what happened, but so I just have one already lined up that it's like to put them back in. And instead of having to screw it all the way out, I got one that's lined up too. And I think I got one, but if you do want to pull a bearing, you know, your order bearings, order you a cheap deal off AliExpress. These do work. I don't know if I even can still find a link, but I think they're all very close. It's just some spool, all of them I've found it works fine for, except for the Alpha's Air TW is like a nightmare all itself. And probably Jimmy from RAR, those pincher actual pliers that remove them, be the best for these ones that they set down in so low and the spools are so narrow. All these others ride high up to where you don't have any issues with the bearing remover jacking up with your spool. So anyway, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for this video on this epic BFS reel shootout.